I believe there is inspiration. Inspiration is like a jolt of something that almost forces you to tackle a theme or a character or something. And it's so powerful that you can't resist it. That's the muse. But the rest is work. The discipline of sitting down 8 hours a day in front of the computer, that's discipline. And no matter how powerful the muse is, if you do not have the discipline, it doesn't happen.
I try to write every day. I try to write 1,000 words a day. I end up using probably maybe on average 50 words of those 1,000 words I write a day, but I find it's really important for me to write every day because once you fall out of the habit, a few months can go by and you don't know what happened, and then to reacquaint yourself with the material you've been working on, to put yourself back in the emotional framework of the story is really challenging, and that can take another month. So in order to keep everything easier for yourself almost, I think you have to write every day.
What I don't do is I don't sit and write for 8 hours, and that is the scariest proposition. I get up and I sit down and I get up and I sit down, and I can get more done in a good 20 minutes than I could if I just made myself just, sit there for 6 hours.
I remember reading A Movable Feast by Hemingway when I was young, and he was talking about, work very hard, know what you're going to do the next day, and leave it. And if you have to read, read something very good or something very bad. One will inspire you, one won't affect you. No middlebrow stuff. And then have a day, have a job, whatever, and then come back to it. And so but it's not like every minute of every day, but when you're there, you're there.
A large part of my time is researching also, which can be good and bad because you research and you can fall back on the sense that if I research, that's good enough today. Or you can over-research where you keep researching and you're not actually writing.
I'm a huge research junkie. In fact, if I could find a way to get paid the kind of money I get paid to write books, to just learn things, to just do the research, that's what I would do. The books are a means to an end. The end is me wanting to spend my whole life just learning things, learning about quantum physics and learning about World War II and learning about, I'm just reading now a great deal about the Cuban Missile Crisis.
In other cases, the research is maybe more emotional or psychological, getting to know someone who's not like yourself. And for me, generally speaking, the most useful research is what I call conversational or barroom research, talking to strangers and letting them tell you their stories. It sounds like a joke, but it's not. The most useful research I've ever gotten is paying for somebody's drink and letting them tell you their story. You just get great material.
The structure of a book is probably the most difficult thing after you have decided on what you're actually going to write about.
The way I like to write is I write a map of what the book is going to be about. I shape each chapter so that everything's anchored. That way I know once I start writing the chapters and start improvising on things, I always feel that I'm anchored to the basic focus of the book, that I'm not just kind of winging it.
I guess it depends again on the kind of writer you are. There are writers who have to know how, with a novel, how everything is going to work out chapter by chapter. It has to be all up here before they can write it out. And there are other writers who, as Ondaatje says, meander if they want to get to town, and you go down this way and that way. And what I love is that sort of meandering, getting lost, taking a few steps back, going out, cutting across country, whatever. Because to me, it seems that if you already know what you're going to say, there's not much point in writing it out. It's that sense of having an idea of where you want to go, but also finding yourself sabotaged. And that's when the really interesting writing happens.
I have to be surprised when I'm writing. I have to feel that something is happening that is electric, that's intense, that's important, that's profound, whatever it is for this particular poem or this short story or what have you. But I have to feel like I'm going to learn something. There is going to be revelation, that there is going to be a turn where I can look at the work and say, I had no idea this was there, or I didn't know I knew this, or putting this all together, I've discovered something else entirely. And I think that those moments really are the great moments that readers find as well in your works.
The creation of voice is pretty much essential in the writing of a novel for me. It comes just after plot because voice drives the novel. It's one of the only things that keeps you glued to the page. Like most of the really great novels I've read have had amazing voices.
That can mean tone, sentence structure, all of those sorts of things. But really, it's that unnameable quality that when you pick up a piece of writing, you can say, oh, I know this is Alice Munro. I know that this is Philip Roth. I know that this is Martin Amis. Like, this is the voice that I'm hearing, and it's just coming through so strongly that author probably couldn't erase it if he or she tried. Voice also speaks to character, and a writer who really enters a character and just kind of takes on that character's voice.
When I'm lucky, I've got specific, distinct. I've got a world of specific and distinct voices that contrast each other, and then I sit back and just listen. But if I haven't got that, then as a person who's crafting a story, I have to go in and I have to go in and tinker.
Now I'm getting into material where it's based on real letters from my ancestry. So I was having a problem there, authenticating my writing and giving myself permission to make those characters three-dimensional and to make their voices real to myself. So I've been working in mask, actually, and I make masks for each character, and I will wear them. I will physically inhabit those characters, and then I will sit down to write as that person who isn't really me. So even my handwriting is different, my posture when I'm working in those character voices. It sounds totally kooky, but it works for me.
I don't have any unpublished books, although a lot of my critics would say there were several that should have remained unpublished. I get that a lot.
I think perhaps I'm a dogged writer. I'm not given to great flashes of inspiration. I don't tend to write at a white heat. I just tend to sort of doggedly go forward, kind of inch by inch. And I say forward